Hello, you amazing people. Welcome back to RX Memes. Today we're going to be diving into r/malicious compliance, so that should be real fun. Here are a few of yesterday's questions. Brilliant answers. The question was, what was one food that no matter how it made you feel, you would still eat and eat and eat? There were some really unique ones, like just plain milk and pickles and olives for the sophisticated people out there. I don't know what that's like. Hot Cheetos, duh. So today's question is, are you a Coke person or a Pepsi person? I am a traitor, I guess, because I like plain Coke, but if it's diet, I love Diet Pepsi or Diet Cherry Pepsi. But I prefer Diet Pepsi over normal Coke any day. So if I had to pick one, it would definitely be Diet Pepsi. So answer below in the comments which one you choose, and I will share your answers in tomorrow's video. How I became Pepsi Man, posted by user/torquenm. So I go to a small-ish high school, like 600 kids. I did nerdy stuff. Band, theater, speech, and I swam too. Was well known and relatively liked. Anyways, in my senior year, I would rock up to school late to the first hour English 102, Pepsi in hand. Teacher starts to notice and gives me detentions for it. I still do it. This continues for a few weeks until the gas station I bought my Pepsis from was having a sale. Apparently the now ex-manager had ordered way too much Pepsi, like whole pallets worth. It was taking so much space up in his tiny store that the owner put it on sale for $3 for a 24-pack. What? I would have been a fool not to buy them. Yeah. I rock up to school carrying 3 24-packs. Whilst avoiding looks from our school cop and hall monitor, I unloaded those babies in my locker. Pepsi time. I grabbed handfuls of these beautiful blue boys and put them in my backpack. Again, I rock up to class late. Same ol', same ol'. My friend mentions being thirsty. Pepsi time. I grab one out of my backpack and roll it over to him. As he looks at me with confusion, I say, "Drink, my child." People hear me say this. People see the Pepsi. People see how much I have. I give people the Pepsi. I am christened as the god of Pepsi. This happens several times over the next 2 weeks, me restocking the Pepsi supply at the end of each week. Eventually, the teacher starts to amp up the detentions to 2 and 3 every time I'm late. Or so she said. I believe it was because of opening the cans. One day, she just tells me to go to the assistant principal's office. The children are left without their Pepsi. They are sad. The assistant principal basically tells me that the cans are distracting to class and I can't bring them in anymore. Sad emote. How will the children get their Pepsi? Such a fool. They'll get their Pepsi anyways. My place of work sells Pepsi for like $1, including employee discount. When I learn of this, I immediately buy about 6 of them. The next day, I leave all my books at home. No need for them. It's Pepsi time. I rock up to school, late again, Pepsi in backpack, and solo cups in my hands. The teacher smiles her biggest smile and says, "Good morning." She obviously knows about the Pepsi. Fool. I keep eye contact and bring out the 2 liters. I open one, and the crisp sound of fresh Pepsi floods my ears. The other kids cheer. The teacher tries to send me back to the assistant principal's office, but I simply say, "It's not a can." She still calls him down and I get 3 days suspension in school for disobeying the rules or whatever. I don't care. My children have been given the water of life. Aftermath. I find out some friends at lunch that they've posted pictures of my face over Pepsi Man's body. I am now Pepsi Man in the eyes of the school. Still hand out Pepsi to everyone who asks for it. I am Pepsi Man. Edit. Tomorrow is my first day back after the suspension and I plan to bring more Pepsi for my children and I. Will post results. She cannot stop me. I am Pepsi Man. Edit. Again, I rock up to school late as usual. It's Pepsi time, boys. Edit. Sweet victory. Again, I rocked up to school late, Pepsi in hand. My children have their Pepsi. The teacher calls the assistant principal and I'm sent down. I rock up to his office and like Kendall Jenner, I offer him a peace Pepsi. He declines but instead says that I may bring the Pepsi to the children before school without a problem. Joyous days! My children have their Pepsi and I am still the Pepsi Man. Not all heroes wear capes, people. Not all heroes wear capes. And that has never been truer. How my mom passed her French final. Posted by user/private account 84. My mom was in the 10th grade, and as we are Canadian, French is the language that we are encouraged to learn. My mom is great at many subjects, was a year ahead in math, and a boss at English. French, however, that was not her strong suit. So, she is barely scraping by in French class, and it is time for the final exam, an oral exam, in which you have to reply to the questions asked by the teacher in fluent French. My mom already knows she's not ready for this exam, but also knows she only needs to get 50% to pass the course. So the teacher starts asking her questions, and my mom responds with "Je ne comprends pas," which means "I do not understand." She answers every question this way. At the end, the teacher asks if she's going to be taking French next year. She says no. He gave her 51% and she passed the class. I relate to this so hard because from kindergarten until grade 7, I was in French immersion, and then for junior high, I wasn't. I was just like pure English. But in high school, to get extra credits, I decided to challenge the French because I still kind of like understood it. So I got all 15 credits for grade 10, 11, and 12 level French just by challenging the grade 12 French exam and passed. However, disclaimer, immediately after high school, I got hired in a call center with an airline that was as a French and English agent. Okay. Because I put on my resume fluent in French because I was so freaking confident about how good my French was since I got all these credits, basically for free. And my French was so horrible because in French immersion, they don't teach you like airline lingo, like how to say, the plane is stuck on the tarmac and your luggage is going to be delayed. Like, I never learned how to say that. So it got to the point where the people that would call the French line would be so rude to me. Like, I want to speak to a real French agent. And like, I'm sorry, like I have French in my blood too. So I feel like I can say this, but French people are not nice in general. Like as a generalization, French people are not nice and like not very patient, especially like Canadian French people. I'm so sorry. Please don't burn me at the stake. But like, they're just not. One year I went on an exchange program in the summer where I stayed in Montreal for 3 weeks, and somebody came to stay with me for 3 weeks from Montreal so I could practice my French and they could practice their English. And I remember being in a store and asking the clerk for something in French, and she's like, "You can just speak to me in English." And I was like 14, maybe younger than that. Anyways, sorry for going on a tangent, but that being said, at this call center job, the French people were so mean to me that when I started seeing like calls come in, because it would say on the caller ID French, so you know how to answer, I just started hanging up. And so I got fired for that. And that was the end of my career at the airline in the call center as a French agent. And I've never, ever put on my resume that I am fluent in French ever again. I am so sorry because that got real long real quick, but let's get right back into the stories. That time the real estate agent evicted me, posted by user /StinkySnarly. Background: I live in Australia and had been renting a unit for 6.5 years via a property management company. The lease was 12 months. At the end of each lease, I was offered the option of another year with a slight rent hike. I signed a contract each time. The unit did not allow pets, but I had 3 indoor-only cats. At each 3 monthly inspection, I left a note for the property manager stating I was cat sitting and not to let the cats out as they were unfamiliar with the area. The company has a very rapid staff turnover, and this worked for 6.5 years. I knew I was in the wrong keeping cats and did expect to get in trouble eventually. I had loads of problems with the management over the years. On 3 occasions, they told me I was behind on my rent when I knew I wasn't. All 3 times they had the wrong weekly rent amount in the system, charging me more than my contract and making me look like I was behind. It was fixed each time after lots of back and forth. I had several break-ins while I lived there, and they never wanted to change the keys, although I made them eventually. They were difficult with maintenance and generally treated me like I was beneath them. I always got attitude when I dealt with them. I had been saving for a while and had just purchased a flat to live in, but it wouldn't technically transfer to me for another 2 weeks. The flat had a tenant, and even though I could terminate their lease on 30-day notice, the previous owners had asked to either let the tenant remain or work with them on a move-out date. I had had a friendly conversation with the tenant, but we hadn't discussed the tenant moving just yet. It was my first own place, so obviously I wanted to move in ASAP, But not only did I need the tenant to move, if I broke my lease, I had to pay re-advertising costs and pay rent, even if I didn't live there, until a new tenant moved in. I'd plowed everything I had into buying the house, so the whole situation was tricky. The story. And then it happened. I came home, and after a routine inspection, I had been issued a notice that offered me the option of removing the cats immediately and permanently, or to go to rental tenancy's tribunal, like renter's court, where the property management will ask for eviction. I panicked, but then remembered that I needed to break the lease anyway. I did a bit of research and found that if I'm evicted, I'm not liable for rent and re-advertising. Also, the property management did not know I'd bought a place. I spoke to the tenant, who was happy enough to move, and asked if they wanted to rent my old place. They did. I contacted the property management and asked if they would release me and my cats from the lease if I found someone to take it over. It would mean my cats were gone and they wouldn't miss a day of rent, but they wouldn't have it. By the tone, I knew they wanted to punish me. The compliance. I agreed to go to tribunal for eviction. I'm sure they weren't expecting that and thought there was no way for me to talk my way out of eviction. Tribunal date comes around and I'm very prepared with a folder of papers. The tenant in my new place has a solid move-out date for 3 weeks' time, so I can move after that. The whole thing was comical from the start. The judge, not really a judge, but it's close enough, asks the property manager how long I've lived there, and she says 1.5 years. The judge asks me to confirm, and I say 6.5 years. Property manager is scrambling through her records and can't find the details. After several minutes, I say I have them and pull them out of my folder. You can tell the judge is not impressed. We get to the cats, and I explain that I know I'm in the wrong, that it's very comforting to have other beings in the house with all the break-ins and security issues. I explain that I have been able to secure other accommodation for myself and my cats, but I need some time to move as I cannot move in yet. The judge seems quite sympathetic. The judge turns to the property manager and says, "You are here seeking eviction, correct?" The property manager says, "I don't have approval for that." "Well, that's what your official paperwork states. I can try contact the owner now, but if I cannot get them, we will proceed as the paperwork states." The property manager is beet red and flustered, stammering that the owner is difficult to contact. The judge leaves to call them anyway. The property manager knows she messed up. She didn't expect me to be willing, and now she knows I'll be getting away without paying hundreds in fees. The judge comes back, unable to contact the owner. She explains the eviction to me, and I ask that my eviction date be after the date I can move into the new place. The judge orders it so. As the judge leaves the room, she looks at me and says, "No harm in a little cat." Property manager is purple. The property manager and I have to stay to sign the paperwork. I am grinning and she refuses eye contact. I go out of my way to shake her hand and say, "Nice seeing you, Janet," as we leave. Honestly, it was such a beautiful moment. To add insult to injury, I was supposed to meet the property manager at the rental to hand over the keys once I moved. I left a card with a cat on it, key taped inside, thanking them for making things so easy. They did try and claim my bond for silly things like age cracks in the wall, but tenancies saw right through it and made them return it. Alright, you amazing people, that's it for today's video. I love a good little short and sweet malicious compliance. Anyways, I thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you tomorrow.